All right, let's jump right into a really fascinating biological puzzle. Think about a potato. Soft, starchy, something you eat for energy. Now think about a tree. Hard, massive, stands tall for decades. What if I told you that at a molecular level, they're built from almost the exact same thing?
So here's the core mystery we're going to unravel today. A potato is basically a sack of stored energy. A tree is a marvel of structural engineering. And yet they are both constructed from long chains of simple sugar. So how is that even possible? Well, the answer is actually a beautiful, elegant concept from biology, and it all starts with something you probably played with as a kid: Legos.
You see, the key to solving this whole paradox is what I like to call the Lego principle. It's one of nature's most brilliant strategies. You take small, simple, repeating units and you assemble them into huge, complex structures that can do completely different things.
Okay, so our first bit of lingo is the monomer. Just think of this as your individual Lego brick. The mono part just means one. So this is our single, most basic building block.
And when you start clicking those monomers together, what do? You get a polymer. Poly just means many. So a polymer is simply a long chain of those monomers all bonded together. It's your finished Lego creation, whether you built a spaceship or a castle.
So how does life act as the master builder here? How does it click these bricks together and then take them apart? Well, the secret ingredient is water. To build a polymer, a process called the condensation reaction links two monomers. And in the process, a water molecule pops out. And to break a polymer down, you guessed it, you do the reverse. A process called hydrolysis, which literally just means water splitting, uses a water molecule to snap the bond. So simple, so elegant, and it's happening inside you millions of times a second.
Now, this whole polymer idea is the foundation for 3 of the 4 major molecules of life. But for our investigation today, we are going to zero in on just one of them: carbohydrates. This is the family where we're going to find the answer to our potato and tree mystery.
So, let's dive into the world of carbohydrates. And, they're not just about pasta and bread. They are an incredibly diverse group of molecules, and their main jobs are providing quick energy and building strong structures.
Carbs come in a few different sizes. The single individual Lego brick is a monosaccharide. Glucose is the most famous one. It's the main fuel for our cells. When you link 2 of them together, you get a disaccharide. That's like sucrose or table sugar. And when you link many of them in a long chain, you get a polysaccharide. And this is where our main characters, starch and cellulose, finally make their appearance.
Now check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. We see starch is for energy storage in plants. Glycogen is for energy storage in animals, like us. And cellulose is for structure in plants. But look really closely at that made of column. Starch is made of something called alpha-glucose, but cellulose is made of beta-glucose. That seems like a pretty important clue, doesn't it?
And this right here, this brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. It's a tiny little twist that changes absolutely everything. It's really a tale of 2 sugars that are almost identical twins, but whose tiny difference has these huge, monumental consequences for the entire planet.
So, let's restate our main question now that we have this new piece of information. We know that both starch and cellulose are just long chains of glucose. One is food, the other is basically wood. Why? What is the real difference between them?
And here it is. This is the smoking gun. It all comes down to the tiny difference between alpha-glucose and beta-glucose. I mean, just look at them. They are almost identical. The only difference is the position of one small part of the molecule. On alpha-glucose, it points down. On beta-glucose, it points up. That's it. Seriously, that is the entire difference.
So the crucial point here is that these molecules are what scientists call isomers. They have the exact same chemical formula, the same list of parts, but those parts are just arranged a little differently in 3D space. It's like a tiny change in the blueprint that leads to a totally different kind of building.
And right now you might be thinking, come on, one part points up instead of down. How could that possibly matter? Well, let's explore the enormous consequences of that single, tiny tweak in design, because this is where we really see how shape creates function.
This tiny difference has a huge domino effect on the final shape. When you link together a chain of alpha-glucose monomers, the one with the down-pointing group, the chain is naturally forced to twist into this loose, springy coil, a helix. This shape is perfect for packing a ton of energy into a small space, just like in a potato. But when you link the beta-glucose monomers, the chain is forced into a perfectly straight, rigid line.
So how does it create that straight line?
This part is fascinating. To actually form the chemical bonds between the beta-glucose units, every other monomer in the chain has to literally flip itself upside down. This alternating up-down orientation is what locks the whole polymer into that super strong, straight shape.
But the story doesn't even stop with one straight chain. Because they're so perfectly linear, these cellulose chains can line up right next to each other, like a bundle of uncooked spaghetti. And when they do that, they form these strong connections between the chains called hydrogen bonds, essentially lashing them all together into a massive superstructure.
And we are not talking about just a handful of chains. We are talking about thousands upon thousands of these straight chains, all lying parallel, all cross-linked together. This is what creates the incredible strength of things like cotton fibers, plant cell walls, and wood. It's basically molecular rope making.
Okay, so let's zoom all the way back out and bring this home. After this journey from a single sugar molecule all the way up to a towering tree, what is the big critical lesson we've learned here?
The takeaway is simple, but it is incredibly powerful. In biology, shape is everything. The three-dimensional structure of a molecule is what dictates, defines, and determines what it does in the world.
And that solves our paradox. That single, tiny atomic flip is the difference between starch, a coiled energy source that our bodies can easily break down for food, and cellulose, a straight, rigid structural fiber that we can build houses with, but cannot digest. A potato and a tree are in fact built from the very same sugar, just with one tiny little twist.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. If a difference this small can create a distinction as massive as that between food and wood, what other tiny, seemingly insignificant details are out there, quietly building the complex, beautiful, and surprising world all around us?